Most IMGs struggle in the SCA for three predictable reasons. Now, once you know them, you'll never look at consultations the same way again. My name is Dr. Erwin Kwun. I've hundreds of GP trainees pass SCA with confidence. I'm the author of Consultation Blueprint. In this video, I'll show you 3 high-impact changes that top performers use to stand out. Let me tell you about Dr. Lawrence Appendung, an IMG who was devastated after failing SCA. This is what he said.
It was very painful to be, I had lost confidence, getting back on track and picking up. It took some time, to be honest with you. So I even remember when I did reach out to you, I had only about a month. One of the things I remember asking you was whether I'll pass.
After failing an exam, it's common for self-doubt to creep in and confidence gets eroded, and this leaks in the consultation. Here are 3 common pitfalls I've seen time and time again. The first one is spending too long in data gathering and not really giving enough time in clinical management. The second pitfall is practicing more and more, thinking that more practice equals to better results. But the problem is, so many times I've seen GP trainees making the same mistake over and over again, reinforcing these bad habits. Third pitfall is conflicting feedback. Everybody has got their own opinion on the SCA. Oftentimes I've seen among reciters, they're preparing together and it's almost like the blind leading the blind because nobody in the group fully understands the SCA. Lawrence rebuilt his confidence in 4 weeks. His score went from 69 to 87. How did he do it? He followed a proven system. And I'm going to reveal you 3 of the changes he used in Consultation Blueprint. The first change is case priming. The best GP trainees, they know that the consultation starts even before you say hi. So in the 3 minutes reading time that you receive, it's very important that you use information that you're given, identify significant information. So often I've seen trainees, they don't really read the case briefing and they ask questions that shows that they have not primed the case very well. So case priming is really important. You have to be reading, identify key information, and also anticipate what might be coming up. You may need to discuss results in one of your stations. So you might see the entry from the other clinician, what have been discussed, what have they done. And you don't want to just ask the same questions, but you want to use information provided and build on top of that so that when you're seeing the patient, you continue that journey instead of going back to square one. So you might get results such as an ECG to discuss, you might get spirometry. So it's very important that you interpret these results in context. So the top performers, when they're priming their case, they're also using the whiteboard tactically. So for example, if you know you tend to forget the concern or expectation, write it down in your reading time so that you don't forget about it. Or if you tend to forget about driving, maybe write it down. What you don't want to do is just write everything and then you don't really pay attention what you've written. And a pro tip is when you're priming your case, don't assume that you know the case or prejudge a case before you have started it. Because sometimes I've seen this among recent candidates where they think it's the same case as they've done before. If you assume it's the same case, then you might not manage it appropriately. Change number 2 is taking a targeted history. Before applying Consultation Blueprint, Lawrence was just asking questions here and there.
So I was asking the questions, but then they weren't targeted, they weren't relevant.
And if you're just asking every question because you're thinking you might miss something, then you're sacrificing your marks in clinical management. So instead of just asking a lot of questions, what he did was he sharpened the eggs. When you sharpen the eggs, you're going to ask better questions, and that will help you to open up the story, get more targeted information that will help you to navigate the case. So how you take a targeted history, think about it as 3 buckets. The first bucket is ideas, concern, expectation. So this is a patient's health belief, the agenda. The second bucket is the biomedical. So this is about the red flags, how to make a safe assessment. The last bucket is psychosocial situation and patient. That will give you context and understand the circumstance of the patient. So most trainees, when they take a history, they focus so much on biomedical and they neglect eyes and psychosocial. Don't make that mistake. What you want to do is take a history first, thinking about the patient narrative. So be curious and ask open question in the beginning, finding out what's the problem. Another mistake to avoid is trying to get ice out of the way too soon. And sometimes, if you're asking a patient about the idea at minute one, it's a bit too soon and they might not really understand why you're asking that question. First, you need to find out a bit more about the problem, get the story, then get into the patient's mind, find out more about what is it that they're thinking, the concern, and the expectation. If you want to know more about ICE, I've done a video specifically on ICE. Click on the link down and you'll see it. Once you've got the patient's ICE, then you move on into the biomedical. A tip here is there's no need for you to ask every symptom. For example, in a 60-year-old man, I won't be thinking about meningitis as top of my list, but I'm thinking about, could it be joint cell arteritis? Could it be glaucoma? In a 19-year-old, I might be thinking meningitis as top of my list. So when you're asking your questions in the history, it's very important that you're relevant. And when it comes to the psychosocial, don't ask questions out of context. Oftentimes, I've heard trainees say things like, do you smoke? Who lives at home with you? And these questions sound scripted. You want to ask your question in context. For example, you could ask a patient, have you got any support when you're not well? That way you'll understand who's supporting them. Or you could ask a patient, how has this headache affected you? Has it stopped you from doing anything? And another tip here is when it comes to cases such as visual loss, faint, really important that you don't forget driving because there might be implication. For example, if the patient happens to be a lorry driver, there'll be implication to the work as well. If you're finding this video useful so far, drop a like so the algorithm knows that you want more videos like this. And if you want to get more teaching from me, I'm running a free live event on Saturday 15th of November at 10 o'clock where we're going to launch Consultation Blueprint. This is a book that has been built from hundreds of stories of GP trainees who struggle with the SCA and analyze what exactly separates the top scorers compared to those who fail and keep failing. And on Saturday 15th of November, I'm going to reveal the full blueprint. So if you want to register your seat, it's completely free and you can unlock free bonuses. So click on the link down in the description and save your seat. I'll see you at the launch. Let's get to the third change, deliver a holistic management plan. Most trainees, they're really good at making management plan medically, but they tend to forget to readdress a patient's ideas, concern, expectation. Let's say you've got a patient who's worried about cancer, but you don't think it's cancer. You think that the headache is due to migraine. If you don't readdress a patient's concern, then they're still worried about cancer. And if you try to manage the case and you give them, for example, medication, they might think this doctor is not listening. So what you need to do is readdress the patient's eyes so that you and the patient get on the same page. Once you're on the same page, you have shared understanding, it's easier to develop a shared management plan. Let me give you an example. You can say to a patient, I understand that you're worried about cancer. From listening to you today, I couldn't see any signs of cancer. And the thing is, the headache that you're having is typical of migraine because you have it on one side and you've also mentioned that you've been feeling sick. So when you actually discuss this with the patient will have a better understanding why you're not worried about cancer. Then you can develop your shared management plan. Some candidates think that the more they explain, the better because they're going to impress examiner. But what they end up doing is dumping information on the patient, overloading the patient with too much information. And you don't usually get good marks for that. The top scorers understand that you don't need to impress examiner, but you need to give an individualized care plan, an explanation that is personalized to that patient. And sometimes less is more. So if you're explaining to your patient a management plan, a framework that I teach is GIFT. So GIFT. G is to gather insight. So in your history taking, you've gathered insight. I is to individualize your explanation. F is to frame that explanation in a positive way. And T is to tie the plan to the patient so that the patient is invested and has ownership of the management plan. That way, they're going to be more likely to follow through. So when you gift wrap your management plan, you're going to give that patient an individualized care plan that they feel that they can actually do something with it. Whereas if you just tell a patient to do something, it's less likely that they're going to adhere with your plan.
After the exam, if you do not pass, you've lost all hope, you've lost all confidence. Picking up confidence, getting back again to studying is very difficult. But then do not lose hope. There is hope. I am Dr. Kwan's course is one of the courses that I recommend, because before my exams, I'd done a few courses and I found out that they were not right for me. But then with this course, it's not only a personalized role play and feedback. With the feedback is very good. And the thing about the cases that we do is that they are very high yield. And to be honest with you, your cases were more difficult than the exam. They actually prepared me for the exam. So it's not only about the skills that we learn here in terms of your course, but then with the support and guidance that you gave me in terms of checking on me, building my confidence as well, I believe that made a difference. So to anyone who at the moment is unsure, who is overwhelmed by the SCA, who is having a difficult time putting things together. If I was able to make it from 69 to 87 within a month, um, you can also make it. Do not lose hope. There's support and help available.
If you haven't registered your free seat to Consultation Blueprint live on Saturday, 15th of November, then make sure you register, click the link down and unlock free bonuses. And I'll see you on the launch where I'm going to show you exactly the blueprint that hundreds of GP trainees have used to pass the exam. If you found this video useful, you might want to watch the next video on how to elicit eyes and reader's eyes. Click here and I'll see you on the other side.